and that is, what are the values? And they noticed that you were struggling with it, with Top Gun, even though, in my view, of course, I've seen it 382 times, so I guess maybe I know what's going on. I even have the dialogue partly memorized. But the values are there, and you have to do it from the behavior. Remember I said about the guy that did the little dance on the far side of the deck, or the hand signals, and the fellows that were watching the plane come in while they're listening or talking on the telephone. Now, the toughest one of all to infer is basic assumptions. And that's why I'm going to run this section of the film from the original Godfather. And I'm going to assert to you, well, let's take a look at it in a more formal way. It's page 94 of your film book. And as I told you, this is, well, I forgot about this comment that I make here, selected in 1990 to include in the Library of Congress's National Film Registry as one of the American film treasures. It's an outstanding film. If you've never seen it, it's worth every bit of about 2 hour, it's almost a 3-hour runtime. And it's I happen to have it still in VHS tape. It's 2 tapes. I like my tapes. I have it on DVD, but I like my tapes. They're just a little bit easier to work with down here. DVDs get crabby. Now I have to start buying, what are those things now called?
Blu-ray?
Blu-ray. Yeah, I've got to now research Blu-ray and buy the equipment is so darn expensive still. It's like $300, $400. It's coming down, but I've got a deadline, so I'm going to have to invest, unfortunately. This is at the beginning of the film, and the Undertaker is the person you're going to see right away, almost right away. He speaks first, and then the camera is a close-up shot of his face. The most important thing that happens here is the dialogue between the Don Corleone, Marlon Brando, and the Undertaker. There's 2 other people in the room. One is Tom Hagen, Robert Duvall, who is the attorney, and then there's one of his sons there, and I can't remember who it was that played the role, but they just sit and stand. Focus on the dialogue. I guarantee you that in that dialogue, you will find the basic assumptions of this organization's culture. And what I want you to do is tell us what those basic assumptions are. And hint, what did, no, I don't want to give you that hint. That makes it too easy. So I want you to struggle with it. And I have the dialogue typed out. I ran this thing about 5 times yesterday so I could get the dialogue properly inscribed. So let's go to The Godfather. Famous wedding sequence. All right, basic assumptions were there. What are they? What should the Undertaker have known and therefore done?
Come straight to Don Corleone.
Come straight to Don Corleone. Yes? More.
Called him Godfather?
Yes. It's an assumption in this culture that the Don is called the Godfather. And there, keep going. There's more. I have it all listed here. I'll share it with you, of course, in a moment. But this is a tough one. And sometimes I suggest rewinding this thing and running it again, but I don't want to take the time to do that. But the basic assumptions of this culture were in the Don's speech to Bonacera. Can't see any more? Go ahead. Take your chance.
Ever the Don ever before to get a problem in friendship?
Yeah, come to the Don.
Social courtesy.
Yeah, come to the Don first, right?
Well, not that. It's just that he he waited till he had a problem before talking to him.
There you go. There you
He
go.
didn't ever come to him just to like, as my grandfather would be like, oh, you don't even stop by to say hi. You don't even by when there's a holiday.
Okay, so
Like, I have to because my parents are making me. I don't go just to like go.
excellent, excellent. So you almost living part of what is said here, where Bonacera should have gone to see the Don when he arrived in the United States, and paid his respects, and then see him regularly. I can't remember the last time I had a cup of coffee. Let's see, up behind you. Do you have another comment? The person? No. Is that okay? Can you see any others? All right, here's the dialogue that has the basic assumptions in it. We've known each other many years, but this is the first time you ever came to me for counsel or for help. So the basic assumption is you come to the Don for help. And this is the first time, even though possibly there was another moment where you should have come to the Don. I can't remember the last time that you invited me to your house for a cup of coffee. Well, you're supposed to invite. And I can remember growing up in my neighborhood in Boston area, where you had, my aunt lived down the street, and and another one lived on another street, and you were expected to go and visit them. Even though my wife is godmother to your only child, so that's expressing the bond between Bonacera and the Don. But let's be frank here. You've never wanted my friendship, and you were afraid to be in my debt. So he's expressing that Bonacera wanted, and he comments on that Bonacera wanted to become part of mainstream American culture and not remain within the subculture of the Don and the Mafia. And incidentally, I worked for Italians in Boston, and they lived in the what we still call the North End, and it's still an Italian area. It is an incredibly tight bond within the group, and it's possibly similar to what you're expressing for your family, where we were expected to behave in a certain way. It goes on, but you don't ask with respect. You don't offer friendship. You don't even think to call me godfather. Instead, you come into my house on the day my daughter is to be married, and you ask me to do murder for money. Now, what's the rule about in this subculture of asking the Don for a favor on the day his daughter gets married? Do you happen to know? He can't say no. That's true. And it turns out if you go further in the film, a whole bunch of people come. This is after the ceremony. As I remember, it's after the wedding ceremony, it's the reception. So people have come to the reception, and they come to see the Don and ask for this, that, or the other thing. Then he goes on, if you had come to me in friendship, then the scum that ruined your daughter would be suffering this very day. In other words, if those guys had beat up his daughter, they would have been taken care of by the Don's lieutenants immediately, and not wait to come and ask the Don. And if by chance an honest man like yourself should make enemies, then they become my enemies, and then they would fear you. That was at the close. So, I assert to you that that segment is the best example I have found yet of basic assumptions. And notice how difficult it was for us to discern what they are. And your example from your family was spot on as far as the kinds of things that certain families teach their children that they should do. In my family, Thanksgiving was one of the big days, Christmas too, when all the senior people, like I told you my uncle was a priest, he would come looking like a priest, and he would sit in a certain chair, and the kids had to sit on the floor. It's sort of like the rank. I was like 7 years old, and little guy. But that was it. Uncle Bob. We could call him Uncle Bob. We didn't have to call him Father Bob. But Uncle Bob was okay, but there he was, looking good, speaking 5 languages whenever he felt like it. Okay. Now, what do you know about Cracker Barrel restaurants?
She has good pancakes.